Blog Talk Radio.
Your experience begin right now. From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride as we are live on Spaced Out Radio. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott, and thank you so much for tuning in to spacedoutradio.com as we come in from the frozen Canadian tundra, battle our way past the wild animals, sidestep Bigfoot, and enter Uncle Jimbo's cabin, stoke the fire, heat this place up, and broadcast to you live on this Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning if you are on the East Coast. Here at SOR, we do this thing 7 days a week. We want to be your official one-stop shop when it comes to the supernatural, paranormal, conspiratorial, ufological, spiritual, and so much more. And if you notice, we have a new kick-butt theme song from guitar god Ron Bumblefoot Thal. You can find his album, Little Brother Is Watching, by going to spacedoutradio.com. If you're a social media junkie like I am, you can follow us on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. You can give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can ask to join our private Spaced Out Radio group as well as our other group, Podcast Central. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, and our new look website is spacedoutradio.com. At this time, we'd love to send a shout-out to our fans listening in the Spaced Out Radio chat room, along with our new fans at Paranormal Into the Night and Paranormal Forum. Hey, if you head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, you can check out Cat's Corner. Psychic Catherine Fallman will answer one lucky listener's submitted question per week. Tonight's show is brought to you by Rivulet Reiki and Readings, providing healings in person or at a distance. Spaced Out Radio listeners receive a 10% discount on pricing. Check out purpleplates.com to help heal your body, mind, and soul. Drop into their site and heal yourself today. 80,000 people a month read the new Agora newspaper, find out what's happening around the world regarding politics, health, supernatural, paranormal, and much, much more. And if you have an iPhone and you have an extra $1, you can download the Spirit Storybox. Spirit Storybox, the official ghost hunting app of Spaced Out Radio. Now, sometimes we have to have a little bit of a change in plans because of the fact that sometimes life gets in the way of our guests. What I'm saying here is tonight's guest was supposed to be Sharry Edwards. She is a sound healing therapist. She had some very interesting information to provide for us tonight. However, earlier today, she had a little bit of an accident where she was working with some wiring, and she poked her eye. And she went to the hospital, had her eye patched up, put some drops in there, supposed to heal it up. But tonight, unfortunately, she was just in excruciating pain, and she sent off an email to me and said, Dave, I'm sorry, I have to cancel. I'm on my way back to the hospital. I can't take the pain. And you know what? Sometimes that happens. Sometimes we have it where, you just, there's a human side to this. She really wanted to do the show tonight. And no, she didn't see that coming, Cog. That is funny. Cog making a comment in the Space Out Radio chat room. That is pretty darn hilarious, if you ask me. But sometimes we got to change on the fly. And so this is what we're going to do. We are going to open up the phone lines. I want to hear your stories about what you believe, what you don't believe, because we've had some pretty interesting conversations here over the last little bit in regards to disclosure, in regards to a photo of our Keith Andrews. There was some heated talk last night with Reverend John Polk on that subject. So I want to hear from you. I will also be taking your questions, whether you're in the Space Out Radio chat room, whether you are on Facebook's Paranormal Into the Night, or whether you are on Paranormal Forum. So, 1-607-203-5344 is the call-in number. If you have a question, press 1. That way it'll light up a little blue light on top of the moose antlers, and we'll be able to see it, and we'll be able to know that you want to have a chat with me on the air. So we're flying by the seat of our pants tonight in regards to topics. And we're going to run with it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you participate, because we really try quite hard to fit your questions and your phone calls in here. A lot of times we don't have time to do the phone calls especially, but tonight we're going to try our best. So, if you want to talk about this show, you want to talk about us moving over to Spreaker, if you want an update on that, I am going to give that to you here momentarily. If you want to ask me any questions about some of the topics that we have had on the show lately, whether it was Bob Mitchell talking about aliens, whether it was Misha Johnson talking about my lab experiences, or our Keith Andrews with his alien talk, C.J. Friesman with his interesting take on extraterrestrials, John Polk last night, where we had a little bit of a debate in regards to, is God an alien? Things like that. I apologize if I have to cough a little bit, because, as you know, I have been getting over this cold, and I'm almost over it. I'm feeling about 95% here. My voice is a little bit scratchy, I know, but that's just the way it happens every now and again. So, your participation is needed. Once again, if you have any questions on topics you want me to talk about tonight, post them in Space Out Radio's chat room, in Paranormal Into the Night, or Paranormal Forum. I'm an open book tonight. If you want to hear about my experiences, if you want to hear about, or if you want to tell me about your experiences, I am good with it all, because that's what we do. Before we get started and go to the phone lines, what I do want to do is I do want to give you a Space Out Radio update. If you didn't tune in last night to Reverend John Polk, you wouldn't have heard that right before the show, a couple hours before the show, we launched our new look Space Out Radio website along with our new logos. So what we're planning on doing, and what we're going to be doing here, is we're going to be getting some swag made up here over the next few weeks. T-shirts, hats, maybe coffee mugs, bumper stickers. And it's going to look pretty good. If you go to our website, spacedoutradio.com, you will be able to see the new look teletype that we're using, which is a 1942 style typewriter. And we're kind of pushing through the limits of using a new theme, Are You Experienced? And the reason why I'm going with that theme for this show, and you've heard me say this a few times over the last number of weeks regarding what we're about. And I'm trying to change the focus of this show. And if you noticed, I've been asking the guests a lot more questions in regards to what your thoughts are. And the reason why I've shifted that focus was because of a talk I had with a lady who's been a guest on this show a couple of times, Lorian Fenton. And we were talking away from the show, and we were discussing how the life of experiencers really hasn't been taken care of over the last number of years. And I'm going to get into that in just a little bit. But that's why I have been literally asking so many of your questions, because I want that audience participation. I want you guys to feel important. Because if you're an experiencer, whether it's of the paranormal, whether you've had a Bigfoot sighting, whether you've seen UFOs multiple times, or whether you've been having extraterrestrial contact or an abduction, in reality, and I find this very disappointing, what is happening in this field is people are turning away from the experiencer because they said you cannot be trusted. The information cannot be trusted. Now, I understand that when it comes to scientific research, and everybody seems to be doing scientific research, but the focus of this show and the focus of our website, Are You Experienced?, is taking this back to you, the listener. And the reason why I want to do that, because so many of you have incredible stories to tell. So many of you have nowhere else to turn. Maybe you're too shy to explain what is going on with you. Maybe you're too scared. Maybe you're afraid that people will call you crazy, bipolar, schizophrenic, nuts, a lunatic. I could throw any adjective I want out there, but it's not, you get the point. So I want you to know, if you're an experiencer, this is the place where we want to make sure that you have the ability to call this place home. That's what we are focused on. That's where we want to go, and that's what we're going to do. That's why we've been asking so many questions in regards to how we are going to conduct this show. Now, some people may not agree with that. Some people may want to, have the typical names that you see on every other show. We're going to get those people too. However, we want to take this a step further. We want to make sure that this show is about you. So that's why we're doing this. In regards to our move to Spreaker, before this show, I had a very good conversation with Dave Cruz from Beyond the Strange. Great show if you want to hear it on Sundays. He's on Spreaker, and he's pretty gifted on that format. So he was helping me out with the Skype issues that I've been having. And I think we have it all figured out. So much so that I'm ready almost to do a test show. And I want to run a couple of test shows, and James will have to run a couple of test shows in regards to making sure that we know how everything is going on with Spreaker. But I think we're almost ready. And I'm excited about that because this is going to be a big move for us. This is going to be where we take this show from a little step to a giant step as we look to move forward, grow bigger, grow better, and grow more into the show that you want. So that's what we're planning to do. We have the new look website. We have the new logos. We have the new music theme songs that are being cut up right now. You've already heard mine. And if you've never heard Ron Bumblefoot Thal, who is an incredible, talented musician and artist, you can go to his website, bumblefoot.com, or you can head to spacedoutradio.com, click on the Bumblefoot tab, and you can download any of his music that you wish, if you like good rock and roll. If you've never heard of him, he spent the last 8 years, 8.5, 9 years with Guns N' Roses, and you know I'm a big Guns N' Roses fan. And we're glad to have him on board. It makes, to me, the show sound so much more professional when we have professional music on the show. Remember, I am taking your questions at Paranormal Into the Night in the Spaced Out Radio chat room, Paranormal Forum as well. And if you want to call in, tell me your stories, ask me anything you want. 1-607-203-5344 is the number. 1-607-203-5344. Bill Cardwell in Paranormal Into the Night has a question. Please explain what was the most profound paranormal experience that you've ever had that you feel may have changed you forever, and why did it change so much? There was two. Thanks for the question, Bill. Excuse me. December 13th, 2011 was when my happily boring life came to an end. And what happened that day was pretty profound. It was like my first awakening. And that's when I saw the angel of death in my mother's eyes. I never thought that I would have something profound happen to me that way, but it changed me forever. It put me on a new direction. Suddenly, sports, hockey, football, baseball, fishing just didn't seem as important anymore. When you see something like that, and I've been often asked, how did you know it was the angel of death? The only thing that I can explain is when you have something that's traumatic, if I can call it that, happen, you just know. You get this feeling that you just know. And my mother has very bright blue eyes. And I went to give my mother a hug. It was about 7:45 in the evening, and my parents said they were leaving. I had a house full of people that night. And as I walked closer to give my mother a hug, I noticed that everyone in the room was standing still, something that I had never experienced before. I was within about a foot and a half of my mother, and my arms were open to accept her hug. And I looked into her eyes, and her beautiful blue eyes were jet black. And where her pupils should be, there was something white. Her pupils were white, and something was looking back at me. And I kind of cocked my head to the right, and I'm looking right at her. And immediately I started feeling the urge to cry, and I got real sick to my stomach. And I just knew that I was looking into the eyes of the angel of death. And within a split second of me making that connection, my mom kind of shook her head, and she was back to normal. And her eyes were blue. She gave me a hug, and she said, "Good night, son. Thank you for a wonderful evening." And I gave her a hug. And then I quickly ran to my bedroom. My wife saw me run to my bedroom, or our bedroom. And she's like, "What's the matter?" And I said, "I just saw the angel of death in my mother's eyes." And I was a little rattled that night. And about 9:30, 9:45, everybody had left. And my wife and I had cleaned up. And we went into our living room, and we sat down on opposite couches with a table in between us, because we were like, well, let's relax. We were just starting to get into this whole paranormal thing, trying to figure it out for ourselves, as amateur as we are. And we sat down, put a couple candles lit up on the coffee table in between us. So my wife starts saying, "Can you relax and chill out?" So I did. And I started recalling everything that I see. I repeated the story to her of everything that I saw. And I started breathing, trying to relax and try and figure out maybe a message would come. I didn't know. I was so green at all of this. I didn't know what was going to happen. Well, I don't remember the next 38 minutes. And what happened at that time, my wife remembers. I'd never heard of channeling before. I had a psychic friend, so I knew what being psychic was, but I never knew what channeling was. Never even heard the word. To me, when you channel, you turn the channel on the television or the radio station channel. But my wife remembers what happened. The angel of death came into me. And he said, "You were not supposed to see me, but since you did, I am here because I feel I owe you an explanation." So what I did then was I sat there and I channeled the angel of death. My wife was asking questions. My mother had been battling with some very severe health problems previous to that. She's a colon cancer survivor. She's a breast cancer survivor. She is one tough lady. But as a family, we had turned our back on her. And I know that sounds real crappy to hear. How could you turn your back on your mom? But what happened was, and the reason why we did, and I'm not saying it's right because it was downright wrong. We had noticed as my mother was supposed to be getting healthier, that as she got healthier, she kept trying to almost cash in on the sympathy card because she had grown addicted to the sympathy that people were showing her. So, for instance, and you would call up my mom, or I would call up my mom on the phone, and it'd be like, and she'd answer the phone, "Hello," sounding all chipper and everything. And I would say, "Hi, Mom, how you doing?" And she would be like, "Oh, I feel so sick. I am in so much pain." And you're like, when you hear this every day, and you hear the transition in the voice, eventually you get sick of it because you automatically will think that you are being played. But the angel of death told me, or through me, stated that I was in the wrong. He stated that my mother was in that much pain and having that much suffering. So basically, the gist of the message was him saying this, and I'd like to know how you would react to this. The angel of death said to me, or through me, if you as a family do not start showing your mom more love and respect, I am here to take her home, I am going to take her home. And I found it very interesting. He didn't use the word heaven. He didn't use the word death. He didn't use the word hell. He said, I am going to take her home. And I've analyzed that so many times. Was he a real jerk for saying that? Was it a threat? And the way I look at it now is it wasn't a threat. It was him protecting my mother because we were not treating her well. And basically he said, if we're not going to show my mom love and respect, he's taking her somewhere where she will get that love and respect. And that's what opened my eyes. When we come back from break, I am going to finish Bill's question because I will tell you about my second awakening that happened in March 2 years ago this month on Spaced Out Radio. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio, open lines, open questions. If you're in the chat room, 607-203-5344 is the phone number. Press 1 if you want to call in, ask me a question, or talk about anything. We'll be right back.
This is Patrick Webster Small, and I'm going to bring you the Webster Phenomena right here on Spaced Out Radio, Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific Time. Every week, I'm going to bring you the freshest information on the globe. I'm bringing you guys the truth, extraterrestrials in the sky, prophecy, chemtrails, rainbow spot, the seventh angel, biblical skies, ancient gods, ghosts, spirits, see it, hear it. So let's do this every Monday night. I'll see you back here at 8 p.m. Pacific Time.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio is live 7 days a week? This is Jim Tyson, host of Spaced Out Weekend. You can listen to my show, Spaced Out Weekend, every Saturday and Sunday night starting at 1 a.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Pacific. On Spaced Out Weekend, we like to delve into the paranormal, even the newest technologies that have enhanced modern-day ghost hunting. And sometimes, we'll get a little creative and dabble into the crypto world, UFOs, and much, much more. So tune in at www.spacedoutradio.com on the weekends and listen to me, Jim Tyson, on Spaced Out Weekend.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Rivulet Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, rivuletrndr.wix.com/rivuletrndr, or my Facebook page, Rivulet R&R, to set up an appointment for relaxation, Reiki, or readings, no matter where you are. Spaced Out Radio listeners will also receive 10% off their first visit. It's time for you to make time for you.
The Spaced Out Radio Network can be found at spacedoutradio.com. Hi there, this is Dave Scott. Here you can join the latest on our weekly shows and news from around the world involving UFOs, cover-ups, cryptids, ghosts, and more. Read articles from our very talented staff and check out our weekly tarot card reading from Psychic Catherine. You can also sign up for free on our forum and tell us about your experiences. SpacedOutRadio.com. Always live, always interactive.
Ready to find out what's flying up in the sky? Me too. Hi there, this is Rich Giordano. Please join me every Sunday night at 7 for the AZ UFO Show. It's a fast and compelling 2-hour show on UFOs, extraterrestrials, conspiracy theories, and much more. Every week we will have great guests and great topics to try and answer the ultimate question, are we alone in this universe or not? So tune in to the AZ UFO Show with me, Rich Giordano, right here on the Spaced Out Radio Network at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to connect with Dave and his guests? Learn more at spacedoutradio.com for the latest news, features, photos, and articles. Spacedoutradio.com is where you can stay up to date on what's happening around the world and up in the stars. And now, back to Dave Scott.
Welcome back for the second half hour of Space Out Radio tonight. We are open lines, open questions to you, the public, as our original guest tonight, Sharry Edwards, had unfortunately canceled due to an eye injury that she suffered earlier today, and she was in so much pain she had to go back to the hospital this evening. So we are going to give her a pass on this one. So I figured it would be fun, since the show must go on, to continue talking about just stories in general. A lot of you are still getting to know me, wondering what I'm about, so I'm filling you in a little bit. Tomorrow night on the show, we will be joined by Matt Landman. There's a chemtrail conference in Vancouver, British Columbia this weekend that he will be a part of, so we will be talking chemtrails tomorrow night on Spaced Out Radio. Hey, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you could do so at Spaced Out Radio. You could give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can also ask to join our private Spaced Out Radio group, as well as our other group, Podcast Central. On Instagram, I can be followed, Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel is Spaced Out Radio Show. You can subscribe to that. And, of course, our website, which has a brand new look as of yesterday, is spacedoutradio.com. I'm going to carry on right now with a question that Bill Cardwell had asked about what experiences I had that changed me forever. In March of 2014, as I was going through and opening up with everything that I was learning about the spiritual side, because after that incident with my mom in 2011, it really put me on a quest. Now, for those of you who don't know, I spent 10 years as a journalist. I have my diploma from one of Canada's top broadcasting schools in British Columbia here. And basically what was happening was, when you're a journalist, you do a lot of research into stories. So every time I had an experience, I would get like 1,000 questions in my head. I would literally stay up until 2, 3, 4 in the morning watching YouTube videos, every television show on the paranormal and UFOs that I could figure out and watch. Didn't matter if it was repeats and I had seen it a few weeks before, it didn't matter. I was eating this stuff up because I needed to know. And the one thing that happened was I noticed that the more I researched, the more frustrated I had become, because I was not finding the answers to my own personal quest. So what I did was I kept working at it. I kept looking online, reading books. My library increased. And in March of 2014, about mid-March, near the end of March, I'm going to say around the 20th or so, I went to bed and I had this weird dream. Now, I am someone who does not remember their dreams. And this one, though, was very profound. Now, it's going to sound weird because of what happened, but it's God's honest truth. And this is before I had even ever thought of Spaced Out Radio. In my dream, I was taken into a bright white room. It felt like there were walls around me, but the bright white light was so bright that I couldn't make out if I was in a square room, round room, if there was walls, if there was a ceiling. It was just me standing in the light. And there was this voice that came into my head. And this voice said, Dave, we no longer want you doing the research that you're doing. We no longer want you reading books. We no longer want you watching television shows. We no longer want you researching on the internet. We do not want you to join any groups like MUFON or paranormal investigation groups. We don't want you going on any online forums. But we give you permission to watch YouTube videos. And that didn't make sense to me. Like, you're taking everything away from me, but you want me to watch YouTube videos. So I said to them back, whoever they are, because I don't know who they are, I said, I really don't understand why you're taking everything away, but you'll let me watch YouTube. They said, the answer is simple. You will be able to tell what is real and what is fake. Now, this threw me for an absolute loop because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't understand, first and foremost. I thought it was a little ridiculous, but I heeded what they were saying. I listened to the message. To this day, I still listen to the message. I get books thrown at me all the time. And I literally have not read a single one of them. And the reason why I haven't is because they, whoever they are basically giving me the message not to. So I figured I'll follow it. So that's what I did. 2 weeks after this second awakening, which I now call it, I saw a UFO land. I was sitting in my friend's house, and all of a sudden, I'm someone who suffers from migraines. All of a sudden, I remember telling my wife around 9:30 in the evening that we better get going soon because I feel a migraine coming on. But after a little bit, I realized it wasn't a migraine. It was actually pulsating shapes in my head. It started off in the front of my head as a square, moved to the side of my head, right side, and it was a triangle. It moved to the left side of my head as a circle. And then all of a sudden, I was filled with anxiety that I absolutely needed to go outside. So I looked at my wife in absolute anxiousness, and I said, I need to go outside right now. And she's like, oh, are you getting a message? Can I come? And I'm like, no, you have to stay inside. The friends who owned the property, which was 10 acres, that was surrounded by forest, they only had one other neighbor on their street, which was an elderly couple in their late 60s, early 70s, when, you know, the type of people who go to bed by 9 o'clock. The wife looks at me and says to her husband, Dave is getting a message. We need to go outside right now. And I looked at her husband and I said, he can't come. He's not invited. Think about that. Why would I tell someone that they're not invited on their own property? So his wife and I, and she is quite intuitive, we get our shoes on and we go to the back of the house. About 40 feet behind the house, there's an old horse fence. And I said, you called us outside out of God's peace, love, and light. Can you please show us where you are? And from the neighbor's back field, and in between the two properties, there's like a really thin tree line. And from the neighbor's back field, it started lighting up with the brightest white light, the same type of white light that was in that room that I had seen 2 weeks previous. Now, the skeptic in me is saying, is it one of those 100,000 candle watt flashlights that people can buy at the hardware store? Is the light moving? Okay, no, the light is not moving. Is there shadows? No, there are no shadows. Do I hear voices? No, there's no sound at all. And after 30 seconds, the light went off. I said, thank you. If you're of alien descent, can you please turn your light? Now, I should preface this, that when I'm asking these questions, I am talking in the same volume as I am to you. This UFO is about 150 yards away from me and my friend. So I asked, once again, if you're of alien descent, could you please turn your lights back on? Boom, lights come back on again. This time the white light is wider through more trees. It is brighter. And one thing I remember about that white light, it was so bright, but you could still look at it without it hurting your eyes. And when I closed my eyes, I could see it. It was beautiful. But I noticed something blue. So I moved about 10, 15 feet to my right, and I looked through the trees where I could get a pathway through the trees. And there was this blue cylinder standing vertical. Now, the trees separating the two properties were probably 50, 60 feet tall. And this thing, this blue cylinder, was standing about 20 to 30 feet. And the white light was coming from it, but it didn't look like the white light was actually touching it. And at the bottom of this blue cylinder was this black cloud that was swirling counterclockwise. And after 30 seconds, the lights went off again. My friend, who is much braver than me, says, let's go over there. Let's check this out. I'm like, are you kidding me? I am not going over there. You're staying right here with me. If this is alien, what are we going to do if they take us? How are we going to explain this? So we stayed still. She goes, well, see if they'll turn their lights on one more time. So I did. I said, just so I'm not crazy, can you please turn your lights on one more time? Boom, lights come back on. And after about 20, 30 seconds, the lights started strobing on and off, on and off, on and off, about 9, 10 times before they went off for good. Did not hear it leave, did not hear a sound. It was just gone. We stood out there about another 5, 6 minutes, and nothing happened. And that's where I knew that we weren't alone. 5 days after that is when I saw my first extraterrestrial, in behind that same farmyard in the forest. And I love it when people say, and for those of you who are experiencers, you'll understand what I'm saying. You always hear these people out there saying, man, I would have went up there. I would love to see an ET. I would love to, have this experience. You do not understand how life-altering it is. I don't care what age you are. This happened to me when I was 40 years old. I'm 42 years old now. You do not understand what it is like. You're not thinking of pulling out your phone and taking a picture, recording it on your iPhone. That's why I don't really believe a lot of that footage that people get with their iPhones. Because when you see something up close and personal, whether it's Bigfoot, whether it's Dogman, whether it's paranormal, whether it's an ET or a UFO that's landed on the ground, the last thing that is on your mind is taking a photo because you want it to sink in, because your first feelings are, how can this be real? This is not real. Oh my God, what am I seeing? Because nobody forewarns you about the feelings that everything you have been taught from young child up until your age now, nobody has prepared you for this. Not your parents, not your school teachers. If you're religious, your religious leaders, nobody prepares you for this. And you're not prepared. I thought I was. I wasn't. I'm going to go to the phone lines right now, 1-607-203-5344. We have a few callers lined up. We're going to go to Daryl here in New York. Daryl, how are you?
Hey, Dave. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'll tell you something. I was filming today. I just caught an explosion. You could do this yourself if you don't want to take my word. But wait a minute. Wait a second. This is live?
No, Daryl, I don't have. Unfortunately, you're cutting out quite a bit.
Wait, hold on.
And I don't have time for a wait. Okay, thank you. All right, 530 area code. How are you? Who am I speaking with?
Oh, Claudia.
Hi, Claudia. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm calling in about the UFO I saw one time. It was a triangle in the sky, but you could see through it, so it was like cloaking or something. Yeah, but looking at it, you could see hieroglyphics across it, even though you couldn't see the ship. That still was there, and it was on a busy street. And I'm wondering why all the cars aren't stopping. Because it was right there to see. So I pulled to the side of the road. And I grabbed this guy, and I said, hey, listen, do you see that up there? And he kind of screamed and goes, oh, my God, and started running, So it was verified that it was there.
Right.
But that was a bright, sunny day. It was visible. But anyway, also I wanted to talk about, there was a couple experiences I had in sweat lodges.
Mm-hmm.
One time, first I was singing this song for a long time, but it was an American Indian song, but I didn't know it. I don't know any Indian language, but it was coming out, as an Indian song. So I kept singing it, and months went by, and finally it felt like I was done, So I go to the sweat, and I said, I have a song I want to sing, and I sang the song in the sweat, and I heard someone crying really hard, but you can't see, it's pitch black in there. Well, it turned out to be the leader of the sweat. She was crying because she said that when she was a little girl, that song was sung to her by her aunt.
Oh, wow.
And I had no idea, where the song came from or why, but that was why. She said that her aunt had said if that song ever came back in a sweat, that it belonged to her.
Wow.
Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, that
is a great story.
And then one other story was at a sweat lodge. I had found this rock, and it looked ancient, and it had like a V through it with 4 lines through it. It just looked like an ancient rock. So I took it to the sweat, and I said, well, I'll bless this rock in this sweat. So we're standing out in the fire, by the fire before the sweat, and I was holding the rock. And I showed it to a lady. Her name was Two Bears. I said, look at this rock. And she says, that's the lightning bolt. She's describing what she saw in the rock. I go, oh, that's really interesting. So anyway, we're standing and watching the fire, and all of a sudden she starts hitting me. She says, Claudia, look. And the same 4 lines with the V through it was up in the sky.
No.
I swear to you. And when I was standing there, the first thing I was thinking was you always hear that so above, so below.
Yes.
I just couldn't believe it. We were just so blown away, Yeah, and I think, for myself, when I was 4 years old, I had a heart operation. My heart's fine now, but I had died for a long time. And came back, and I really think that opened the door for going into other dimensions, experiencing all the stuff, from a young age all the way through, was that death experience.
Did you notice, if you don't mind me cutting you off and just asking you a question here, Claudia? Did you notice that as you aged, the experiences, whether they were paranormal or ufological, became increasingly more often? I don't want to say aggressive, because that's not the right term that I'm trying to get out, but that the appearances, whether it was of spirit or of UFOs or anything else, just happened more frequently, and they kept on trying to get closer and closer and closer to you?
Yes. But I think it's because, like, you know, like you just had that altering life experience, you know, it just opens the door. I mean, it's more like, you know, anything's possible now. And so things start opening and coming to you easier because that door was open.
Right.
You know, and for myself, I've always found that through ceremony of, you know, it could be any ceremony, but a ceremony with intent really brings it on fast too. Because I guess it's like you're saying to the universe, you know, I know all this is possible, and I'm asking for this, and it responds.
Right.
Right?
You know what? Totally. And you know what? I just want to make a couple of comments on things that you had said. When you saw that triangle in the air that was almost luminescent, after I had seen the extraterrestrial in the forest, which really opened my eyes, a couple of months later, a few of us went back there and we were doing some very unscientific studies, you know, just about trying to figure out the height of everything and where they were standing compared to where we were standing and so on and so forth. When we came out of that forest, one of our friends looks up in the sky and he sees this orb, a translucent orb. And we're immediately thinking, you know, because you think human on these things, and we're immediately thinking, okay, that's a weather balloon. So he runs in and gets his binoculars, and we were able to zoom in on it pretty close, but there was no strings hanging down. It wasn't rotating or spinning. In fact, it wasn't even moving. And there was a breeze in the sky. And here's the funny part that kind of ties into what you went through that day. After watching it for about half an hour, looking from the property was west of where I lived. It was about an 8-minute drive from where my home was. My wife and I went home, and as we're driving, we're trying to still see if it's in the air, and yes, it's still in the air. We get to our house. And, you know, you always have that little break where you forget something, and then it automatically comes back to you. So I go out on my patio when we get into the house. I'm like, oh, yeah, that orb. I wonder where it is. And I'm looking in the sky for it, and I realized as I looked up that orb was hovering over my house.
Wow.
And it was there. It was there another 3 hours over my house before it started moving north and just disappeared. Now, my wife saw it, my daughter saw it, my mother-in-law saw it. All of us went out and stared at it, and we'd go out and check like every 5-6 minutes to see if it was still there, and it was not moving. So I found that very interesting that you had mentioned that as well. And the other story I want to talk about, the other story I want to mention is a friend of mine named Ron. He was kind of adopted. He's a Caucasian fellow, but he's kind of been adopted into the Chehalis First Nation, which is a very spiritual First Nation here in British Columbia. In fact, they have a lot of Bigfoot contact around their area. It's in the Harrison Lakes area. So if you ever wanted to look that up, Bigfoot and Harrison Lake. But he would go to sweats, and he would also go to drumming sessions.
Yes.
And during these drumming sessions, he said it happened almost every time, and they met every week, where when they started drumming and chanting in their beautiful song, and you know how beautiful that is. When we
drum.
Yeah. What happened was he got startled the first time it happened because many elders who had passed over were all of a sudden showing up in spirit, clear as day, drumming and singing along with the rest of the men in the drumming session.
They do that. I had went to a peyote ceremony. It was a healing ceremony for someone, And throughout that whole ceremony, you could hear at least 50 people answer. You knew they were ancestors. It was their language. And you could hear them. It was like a choir. I mean, it was just unbelievable. They do show up. They do show up.
That always amazed me, and I wish I had the opportunity to go and see that, and I hope one day that I do. Claudia, I'm going to put you back on hold because I have to take a break, and I have another caller who wants to get through. So thank you so much for sharing your stories, and thank you for following us at Paranormal Into the Night. Your support and your love for this show is duly appreciated by myself and Jim.
Well, thanks for having the show. It's so great. It's just so great. It's so needed. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
We are going to go to break here at the top of the hour as hour number 1 is in the books. When we come back, more phone calls, and there's a ton of questions we have to get to. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be right back.
The Phoenix Lights, Roswell, secret military aircraft, flying saucers. Let's check out the sky together. Hi, this is Rich Giordano, host of the AZ UFO Show right here on the Spaced Out Radio Network. Every Sunday night at 7, we hit the airwaves to talk about the phenomenon of unidentified flying objects and more. We want to hear your stories. Maybe you've seen what many others have seen. Only one way to find out, the AZ UFO Show on Sunday nights on the Spaced Out Radio Network on spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is James Tyson, host of Spaced Out Weekends. And I know you're enjoying tonight's show with Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio. I just wanted to remind you that Spaced Out Radio continues on the weekends with me. On Spaced Out Weekend, we hit the airwaves at www.spacedoutradio.com starting at 10 p.m. Pacific, 1 a.m. Eastern. We have great guests with interesting chats regarding all things paranormal, supernatural, cryptozoological, and much, much more. So tune in to Spaced Out Weekend and give us a listen.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Need a break but don't have the time? Tired of life's running around? Hi, this is Jolene from Rivulet Relaxation and Readings. Let me help you in your time of need. From Reiki to realm readings, I can help provide you therapy for your mind, body, and soul. Check out my website at rivuletrr.wix.com/rivuletrr. And if you're a listener of Spaced Out Radio, receive 10% off your first session. Rivulet Relaxation and Readings. And don't forget to give my Facebook page a like. It's time for you to make some important time for you.
The Spaced Out Radio Network can be found at spacedoutradio.com. Hi there, this is Dave Scott. Here you can join the latest on our weekly shows and news from around the world involving UFOs, cover-ups, cryptids, ghosts, and more. Read articles from our very talented staff and check out our weekly tarot card reading from Psychic Catherine. You can also sign up for free on our forum and tell us about your experiences. SpacedOutRadio.com. Always live, always interactive.
The Webster Phenomena airs on Spaced Out Radio on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific Time. I'm your host, Patrick Webster Small, and I discovered extraterrestrials in the atmosphere, which led me to more discoveries, developing the Webster Phenomena, which is the occurrence of extraterrestrials throughout nature. I will explain the Webster Phenomena and all my recent discoveries every Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific Time, right here on Spaced Out Radio.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Want to call in to Spaced Out Radio? You can 1-607-203-5344. You can tweet us at Spaced Out Radio or send us a message on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio. And now, back to the show. Here's Dave Scott.
Welcome back for hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Open lines, open forum, ask your questions about my experiences. Tell me about yours. That's what it's all about. We originally were going to have Sharry Edwards on, but due to an injury that she suffered earlier in the day, she could not make it on the air tonight. She highly apologized, and we will reschedule her for later on, probably May or June, because we are kind of booked up through April now. So we're going to be booking May. Corey and I are working our butts off to make sure that everything is filled up for you. Hey, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. You can give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can also ask to join our Spaced Out Radio group as well as Podcast Central. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Your YouTube page is Spaced Out Radio Show. You can subscribe to that. And our brand new look Spaced Out Radio website, and it looks pretty damn good if I don't say so myself, or I do say so myself. Check it out. I would love for your opinions. See what you think of that. All right. We're going to continue on. Bill Cardwell from Paranormal Into the Night had a follow-up question for me in regards to my experiences. He's saying, Dave, you say you were told you were not supposed to see that image in your mother's eyes. Do you think you were destined to have that experience even though you were told it wasn't meant for you to see? What I mean is, do you think it was ultimately unavoidable? I'm not sure. I look back at it now, and that was a real turning point for me, Bill, because I was, not prepared for it. I don't even think the angel of death, looking at the look of shock on my mother's eyes, like, oh, you recognize me? I don't even think he was ready. I don't think he was meant to communicate. But since I did see him in my mother's eyes, maybe it was the honesty of the angel of death that had to come through. I really don't know how else to answer that, because obviously it was meant to happen, because if it wasn't meant to happen, I wouldn't have seen him. Or maybe it was just one of those situations where it just happened. And he felt he owed me an explanation. I hope that works for you. But that's pretty much I've never been asked that question. And I've never really thought about it that way. Maybe something will trigger in my mind later on after the show that will allow me to see a little bit more into that. I'm going to go back to the phone lines here, and we're going to bring on Erica Getch. She's a former guest on this show about a year ago talking about her own alien experiences. Erica, how are you? Long time no talk.
Hi. Oh, I'm doing well, and hi everybody. Yeah, I was just listening to the show and enjoying it, and I'm not, it caught me because I haven't. I mean, sometimes, our experiences are very similar in the sense that, I just wonder if you're not a contactee like myself, because from the counterclockwise to it's just incredible, the parallels in it. And so did you ever say you had missing time after your sighting?
What? I've never had missing time previous to that. But I will say this. There is, when I worked in Vancouver, at a radio station in Vancouver, I would commute in, and twice I had time skip on me at the same intersection, once heading west and once heading east, where I would see the light turn green. I would start to go, and next thing I know, I hear horns blaring at me, and when I look ahead, the light is red. that happened to me twice going in the opposite directions, months apart.
And this is after the sighting?
No, this is probably, I'm going to say 5 years, 6 years before the sighting.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, okay, I'm sorry. I'm getting excited now. Everybody that knows me, once I start getting, there's so
You
much.
go, girl. You go, girl.
Okay. I mean, God, there is a lot of, see, I haven't talked about my experience. I haven't been excited about talking about it for you. It's your show right now. Boom. It's gotten me really excited. Like, I'm starting to really get into, making all my web pages and doing the things to get myself back into this mode again, because frankly, I just needed a break. I mean, I took after I wrote the book, I took a couple of years off, honestly, and I hardly even talked about anything, and it was just like one of those things. I thought I would never stop. I used to eat, sleep, drink, all that too, and one day I just went, you know what? I don't know. I'm just not interested in, just like it was that kind of thing. Your body just says, you know what? It's time to break. and I'm back because I did take that break, and I had time to reflect, and I really needed to. But there's so much you can never, I always tell people, you can never get away from, being a contactee. You can't get away from your experience, even having a major experience like you did. And, you can take a break, but it affects your life in every single way. You can't stop, you can't turn it off in the subconscious. So it's always been there, and now it's like I just have to get back into the mode. I'm compelled to do it. And just like you were, compelled to, and then heard about watching the YouTube videos and stuff, you know what? It's like I have that. Now, I have heard some audio voices, and which were strange as well, and a lot of people, of course, skeptics, well, sometimes we call that a hallucination. Well, no. I mean, you clearly know that, the difference, and you just don't have an audio hallucination, and then, it don't have it again for 5 years or something. I mean, in other words, it's, that's not the way it goes. Sorry, people. I've studied all that, and I have been checked out by the psychiatrist, so everything's fine. So it wasn't that. So it's just a very strange. I don't know. I'm just really excited because when you talk about it, it's like I think, God, did I see you on the ship? I know it sounds so silly, but it's really hard to find an experience that's similar to mine. And when I hear the counterclockwise motion of just anything involved, which mine was the craft, but ours was mine's like I don't know 100, 200 feet away. I mean, it's obviously it's hard to judge it, but it's just really, really interesting, and it's just getting me all excited, and God, I can just talk forever. So
you know what? I want to bring you back on the show in May, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Because I think we need to revisit your experiences and everything. I think you're a very knowledgeable woman when it comes to these topics, and with your experiences, I know it's been about a year or so since we've had you on the air, and for people who may not have heard your story, because our listenership has grown by leaps and bounds since then, I would love to be able to bring you back on in May. But I do have a question for you now.
Set it up, definitely.
Absolutely. I do have a question for you now, though, Erica.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
You were in the Space Out Radio chat room when you were hearing what we were talking about. And one of the things that you commented on very strongly was when I had mentioned that people who have never experienced anything, who say how they're going to act when they have that experience, if they do, what is your opinion on that? And what did you go through when you had your first experience or multiple experiences when you didn't quite understand? Well,
I mean, I really can relate to people. Okay, there's skeptics or just people that are wanting to find out more, they're like, well, pretty much, why didn't you just, obviously in my major experience, I had since childhood, but, various experiences, but in contact, but the sighting / abduction, the cookie cutter almost abduction scenario, which I hate saying abduction, but okay, that's kind of what it is, I suppose. That, happened in the 80s, so of course there was no cell phones, and there wasn't really any cameras, there was just the crappy ones and all that, but, nobody really carried them around, and so, that kind of would rule out, well, why didn't you take a picture, But nowadays I can see where people would be just automatically thinking that, well, why don't you just take a picture? Well, okay, here's why. I don't want to say I'm skeptic, but I do have a skeptical side, even though I've had an experience, which I think is a great thing to have, because I think it's very smart, because you don't want to be fooled into anything. And I know, like you, I pretty much can tell when something's not right, and I don't like to call people liars, okay? There's all sorts of, experiences that people can have, and then maybe they believe it, and maybe it's not quite what it was. Maybe it's a human element involved versus, extraterrestrial. So, see, to call someone a liar about, it was an ET, no, there's so much to factor in. So, but it's like and just to cut to the chase, in my experience, I don't see how, my experience was the car and electronics on the car everything went haywire, the radio first, and the car stalled. So, and the way the air felt and everything was like staticky, or, just had that strange, and in my personal belief, if you're that close to something and maybe far away, I don't know, it's hard to gauge, honestly, I'm just going to say it, cameras aren't going to work. If they don't want a camera to work, and I really don't think they're going to want to, because they can cloak themselves, hide from the big guys, the government and all that, if they want to. So, if it's I'm saying this, if it's an extraterrestrial entity that is, driving the ship or something, it's not going to allow, the cameras to work unless it wants to actually be seen. And, well, I don't think so. You know what I mean? It's like they want to be seen. They're probably going to be seen on a mass scale if that's the plan. But that's just my opinion, because based on my experience,
Well, let me ask you this then. When you hear people then say to you, because all experiencers have this happen, when they say, I would have taken a picture, or I would have walked up to it, or, I just want any experience, I don't care if it's good or bad. What do you say to people about what they are going to feel like emotionally when they have that situation happen?
Right. And I can only say, and preface it, is I can only say that I'm basing it on my understanding of, with my experience. So, other people might have a different take or a different, mental state. But based on what I've heard, and I was working as a state director for ICAR, which is, abductions and stuff, and in various places. So I've answered questions and, things. And honestly, your mind state is it's not going to be fully conscious. That is just what happens. You're in another, I'm not really sure how it is played, but the brain waves they're not straight on the way that they're normally functioning, like right now or something. And I don't know, it's after midnight, so I guess maybe my brain waves aren't functioning properly. But
see, what I remember when I saw the extraterrestrial, okay, and this was a 10 to 12 foot being, and he was 200 feet away from me, standing right in the middle of the forest, and I was looking at it. And my friend was looking at the other extraterrestrial that was there, about a 5 to 6 foot being. And when we were looking at that, this is how I explain it to people. imagine you're a child because you go through every memory and every rule in your life that you've ever been taught. And let's say you're holding a piece of paper that has every do and don't, what's right, what's wrong, God versus devil, everything that you have been taught, heaven and hell, on a piece of paper. And a stranger walks up to you, a complete stranger walks up to you and says, "Can I see that piece of paper?" and rips it out of your hand, crumples it up, and throws it in the garbage.
Yeah.
When you have something that unexplainable of a sighting that happens to you, and when I had this sighting with my friend Samantha Mowat, who will be on this show on the 24th of this month, my recollection of this was, and I'm 40 years old when this happens, but my recollection was everything that I have been told was a lie.
Yes.
Everything everything that
Mm-hmm.
I thought was right and was wrong in regards to how life is set up was now thrown out on that piece of paper, thrown into the garbage. And people don't understand how life-altering it is when you have that experience. And you hear people say, well, was it your imagination? No, I have a witness right beside me who saw the same thing. Well, how do you know that this is what the creature was? Maybe it was a bear. Well, a bear doesn't stand 10 to 12 feet high and have a tan, creamy, milky type color to it and have a head at the end of this. Oh, I can't even explain it. It's so tough, but people just don't understand. And it's not their fault that they don't understand. It's just that you have to be put in that situation, that mind-altering situation, to finally get it and say, this is real. Because it puts everything on the table. Does God exist? Is the Bible correct? Did Jesus actually come down? Is there a devil? Is there a hell? Is there a heaven?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you hit the nail right. Oh, God, that's really bad. Right after Jesus, and I said, you hit the nail on the head. Sorry.
No, that was cute.
That was a Freudian slip, that after midnight Freudian slip, because obviously I'm not responsible. No. You know what, though? It's true. It shatters your complete understanding of reality and makes you question yourself, your own existence, and everything that you ever thought you knew and ever will know. And at the same time, I believe that I was, in my experience, there was something that was making us tired, in a sense, almost hypnotizing us, I guess, of some sort. It was the lights. But so there was something like that, and that's where I'm saying there's all sorts of things that is messing with the brain, Your brain isn't functioning correctly in so many levels. And, for whatever reason, I mean, you're obviously, you're going to be less problem if you have a little bit of confusion and sedation of sorts, even if it's through your own post-traumatic stress, I mean, so, and they expect that. They know that. They've seen it. It's not their first rodeo. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you something about my experience. It happened at 2:00 in the afternoon, and I kept on looking over at Samantha, and I kept on saying, "What the F is that? Samantha, what the F is that?" And she is someone who has had contact since she was literally in the crib. She's an amazing story. And anyways, they were telepathically communicating with her. And they picked up, as you said, they picked up on my panic. And they had said to Samantha, "You are more than welcome to come over here and meet us. We are not taking you, but you are more than welcome to come over and say hello. But we are unsure of the man's health." because they knew I was panicking. I wasn't scared at seeing them. What I was scared is, like I said, everything in my first 40 years of life up until that point was now on that piece of paper crumpled up in the garbage. And I didn't know how to react. And my heart was racing. I was shaking. I didn't know how to react. And that's why I find it quite funny and humorous when I hear people say, well, why didn't you pull out your iPhone? Did you have your phone on you? Why didn't you take a picture? You know? Because when you have an alien at 2 o'clock in the afternoon that's 10 to 12 feet high standing there in front of you 200 feet away, the last thing you are worried about at this point is grabbing your iPhone and taking a picture.
If it would even work, right? I mean,
exactly.
Obviously they, and not to mention, your brain's trying to make sense of everything. You know, going through all of it, but you're flooded with everything that is fight and flight that was ever, built into our archaic, little part of the brain, the dinosaur brain and all that.
Right.
We're trying to figure this out. And look, even for me, they used to come when I was, 5 years old, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't, it's like the shock because you forget and the body, the body never forgets, but the brain can. And I had a doctor tell me that. Body always remembers. So your body can go in panic every time because your brain and your body aren't lining up. They're both trying to, everything is, being awakened and it's all about survival mode and trying to figure out if you should run where your feet want to go, but yet your brain's telling you you're too scared, or you're trying to figure out if it's even a real, if you're really seeing something that you really should be running, because of course it's not an everyday occurrence. So but somebody in the chat room I noticed said something about our missing time part of the abduction or the contact, and I just wanted to say, it is, but it's not mandatory. But most of the time, that's why even sometimes people don't even know that they were abducted until years later. Is it just things just keep adding up? So there's all sorts of. There's never really any specific thing. It's never.
Right.
There's no rule.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And you know what? It's one of those things, Erica, where if you don't have the knowledge of being an experiencer or don't know that you're an experiencer, when you finally awaken to what is truly happening, it can be scary for a lot of people. And a lot of people are not prepared for that event to happen because they think they know how they'll react. But there's a big difference in thinking the way you know you're going to react compared to actually how you react.
Yeah, and you know what? People need to realize, religion, if you really look at religion, and not spirituality, but, even I'm always saying, that, the Bible had before the ancient aliens thing, I read and I was, thinking about being a minister. Can you believe that? And I studied for 4 years and everything. And so I was really, looking into it, and I kept saying it's, there's so much extraterrestrial or some kind of, otherworldly stuff that, but, if people are scared, and this is like, I can just, bow out after this, but if people are scared and maybe they're thinking their reality would be shattered and they're afraid of if they ever saw one, or if that's something that they're afraid of, if you ever do see one, and if there's any way your brain can actually function enough to remember this or whatever, think in the sense that, I couldn't, so, but even beforehand, just to ease your mind before if you ever saw anything, just that the fact that if you believe in religion, or a lot of people do, then whether or not it's extraterrestrial and you want to believe that or not, think about you can do parallels. If people believe that, then the ETs. I mean, in other words, maybe it shouldn't be so scary because look clearly my experience was positive. Yours, I mean, they were concerned for your your health and stuff. So in other words, I mean, that doesn't sound as bad as it could be, Not saying people don't have bad experiences, but, and I have to say
right.
I'm kind of like a big fan of saying, hey, if people had a very awful experience, I tend to find a mill lab or military abduction scenario that is a lot close to that, meaning that they could be the human element involved in a horrible abduction. So that is just my theory.
Mm-hmm. You know what?
So
we're going to save that.
Yeah.
We're going to save the rest of that conversation for May when I bring you back on the air, because I want to bring. I think you're hitting some major topics here, and I don't want to ruin it for a show in May. I hope you understand.
Thank you for having me on, though. I know I'm a motor mouth, and I appreciate. I just enjoyed, and I don't know. It's been a long almost year since I had a death in the family and just things like that just sort of just brought me to another level and reflecting. So I'm going to listen to the rest of the show, and I will just let you set something up with me and get a hold of me.
Not a problem.
Okay.
Not a problem.
Thank
you so much for calling. Hold on. I want to just confirm some stuff with you during the break. We're going to take our final break here on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. Your experiences, my experiences, and your questions, because I know there's a few of them I need to answer from Paranormal into the Night right after this. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be right back.
Want to find out what's coming up on the Spaced Out Radio Network? Go to spacedoutradio.com, where you can find our daily list of shows and guests appearing throughout the week. Want to tell us your story? Be sure to sign up for the Spaced Out Forum for free. Maybe you have a psychic question. Drop in and say hi to Catherine in Cat's Corner. spacedoutradio.com, your 24-hour source for UFOs, ghosts, conspiracies, and more. Check it out today.
Are you one of many who's had a UFO or ET experience? Listen up. The AZ UFO show is on every Sunday night at 7 on the Spaced Out Radio Network. We talk about UFO sightings across the globe, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, and more with me, Rich Giordano. I want you to know what's going on in the skies above you, so tune in to the AZ UFO show on Spaced Out Radio Network, on spacedoutradio.com, right before Spaced Out Weekend. Our show is literally out of this world.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Brand new discovery beats NASA. This is Patrick Webster Small bringing you the Webster Phenomena every Monday night at 8 p.m. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to talk about amazing stuff, have amazing guests. That's all there is, man. You know the rest. As ET is up in the sky, I'm going to tell you which way and why. and we're going to have a little combo about these ETs in the sky. We're going to chill. This is Patrick Webster Small, and I'll be seeing you every Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific Time. Write it down on Spaced Out Radio.
Is the 24-hour world starting to wear you down? Let me from Rivulet Reiki and Ratings lend you a hand. Hi, this is Jolene, and if you're in need of Reiki or a realm reading, come to my website, rivuletrr.wix.com/rivuletrr, and let us help you out. At Rivulet, I specialize in healing your body, mind, and soul, no matter where you are. And be sure to check out the Rivulet R&R Facebook page for your best deals. Remember, it's time for you to make some time for you.
Hi there, this is Jim Tyson, host of Spaced Out Weekend. When you've had a busy week and you're just wanting to chill out and relax, how about listening into my show? That's right, Spaced Out Weekend. I focus on the paranormal, the arcane. I even dip into the techie side of things and much, much more. And I would love for you to come in and check it out. Remember, Spaced Out Radio goes 7 days a week. Dave Scott, Monday through Friday, and me, Jim Tyson, rolling through the weekends. I look forward to having you stop by for a listen every Saturday and Sunday night, 1 a.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Pacific, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Missed most of tonight's show? Don't worry, you didn't miss a thing. You can head to our website where you can download the podcast at spacedoutradio.com. Now, back to tonight's show. Here's Dave Scott.
We've rounded third. We're heading for home on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for joining us as we have opened it up to you, 1-607-203-5344 if you want to call in. Tell me your story. I have a couple questions from the Paranormal Into the Night that I'm going to get to here momentarily, and then that should take us right to the end of the show. Tomorrow night on the show, we're going to be talking chemtrails. Matt Landman will join us. He will be participating in a chemtrail conference in British Columbia here in May, and we're going to learn more about chemtrails. I'm going to tell you this. I've wanted to do a chemtrail show for months. This is something that really intrigues me, and I want to find out about it. I want to find out about who's doing it, why they're doing it. Is it really pertaining to that horrible disease, Morgellons? We're going to find out tomorrow night from Matt Landman. Hey, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. You can give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can also ask to join our Spaced Out Radio group as well as Podcast Central. On Instagram, I can be found at Dave Scott, SOR. And, of course, our YouTube channel is Spaced Out Radio Show. You can subscribe to that. And our new look website, which launched yesterday, is spacedoutradio.com. Now, I'm going to get to your questions. Scott Same from Paranormal Into the Night has been waiting a while for this one. He asked me, Dave, do you think that humans evolved here on Earth, that apes and humans had a common ancestor, or do you suppose we were made by aliens? Or do you suppose humans immigrated here from another planet? I may be a little bit naive on this question. I did not grow up in a religious family, but I still believe the original truth in my mind, or what I perceive to be the truth. It may not be the truth for you, and that's okay. I still believe there is a God. I still believe that there is one God that is the Alpha and Omega. I do believe that Jesus Christ is his son. And when you have a religious experience like I did with the angel of death that happened not once but twice, it really, to me, confirmed that for me. I know we've had guests like Reverend John Polk last night who will come on here and say that God is an alien and Jesus was an alien called Yahweh. I'm not sure if I believe that. I really am not. But what I do believe is that I have seen the angel of death. The second time I didn't see the angel of death, but I knew he was in the room when my wife's grandmother was passing away. We were called to the hospital. And 9 minutes before she breathed her final breath, he allowed me to see her spirit leave her body. When the spirit of Grandma came out of her body, it hovered over her body, and then it shot up right through the ceiling. And the energy that was in that room of the angel of death, which I recognized from that time in my own home with my mom, it was the same. I knew he was there. I was challenging him to show me where he was. And it was kind of like, okay, you want to see something? I'll give you something. And I watched her spirit leave her body. That, for me, in that experience, confirmed that, to me, there is a God, a true God, and that there is a Jesus, there is a heaven. I do believe in reincarnation. I do believe that we get multiple opportunities on this planet to evolve spiritually. And, you know, it's something that I am very committed to that fact. I don't preach it. I don't sit here and say, you know what, there is a God, you should believe in God or anything like that. That's not what I'm about. This was my experience for me, and it has strengthened my belief in what is out there. Now, that's not to say that I'm right or wrong. That's just my experience. So, Scott, I hope that answers your question. Claudia has a couple of questions here. Her first one that's been waiting quite a while says, Dave, since you have had many encounters and the members of your family have, both of you and your wife's families had experiences also, your mom or dad or her grandparents or your grandparents, uncles, aunts, how does your family respond to all of your experiences? I didn't tell my mom about what I saw in her eyes until probably 6-7 months ago. My mother comes from a very deeply religious Mennonite family. My dad comes from a Ukrainian family, which is very, very Orthodox. However, they are more of a five senses type family, as I like to call skeptical people, five senses people. And it was very tough on me to try and get that experience out there because, you know, when you, as far as I know, I'm the only one in my family who has had these experiences. I've talked to a couple of aunts and uncles and cousins trying to figure out which side of the lineage it falls on. I've talked to my sisters about it. They believe it comes from my mother's side. However, with the heritage that my mother has with a very deep religious Mennonite background, she doesn't like talking about these types of subjects. She doesn't like talking about psychic intuition. She doesn't like talking about things that are not God or Jesus related. So I'm a little lost at where this came from or why this happened to me. My wife's side, they have had a history of empaths in their family. Up until her and I got together in 2008, she had no extraterrestrial experience. She really didn't even believe in God. It was weird because she didn't believe in God, but she believed in angels. And to me, that really didn't make sense. But her extraterrestrial phenomena started happening when mine did. I don't know if my daughters have been taken. I know my wife and my son have been taken at the same time. I know my wife gets taken more than I do. I haven't been taken, as far as I know, since September 2014. So it's very interesting to see how this is going. Maybe this is the start of it. I don't know. I really don't know. I do know that both my daughter and my stepdaughter are very, very intuitive young ladies in their teens. And if they didn't have the teenage problems that every teenager seems to have at that age with school and boys and, girl things and, I'm a man, I can't figure that out. But if they didn't have all of that teenage drama going on, I'm pretty sure that they would be highly, highly psychic and highly intuitive, both of them. My stepdaughter actually has fairies in her room almost on a nightly basis. She sees them. I have a video of one. I just haven't figured out how to post it on Facebook because I don't have an editing machine and I really don't want her face on Facebook. I've shown that video to the crypto guru, Ronald Murphy, who absolutely believes, because he is a fairy expert, he believes 100% that it is a fairy in her room that she caught on film. My other daughter, my biological daughter, she has been seeing spirits since she was literally a year and a half old. She would wake up in the middle of the night and tell us about them. And thankfully, my ex-wife and I were open-minded enough to believe her. I'm going to get to another question from Claudia here. She says, Dave, do you think because of fear of contact, is that why they paralyze the abductee? I wonder if fear out of EMF from humans that they can see or feel, and this tells them what to do with who, or who they can communicate with or not. I think they knock us out for the reason that they don't want to be traumatizing us. Now, I know when I was taken, September 29th, 2014, and I woke up on the table, I don't recall going. I do recall waking up in a weird position the way I never sleep. I was lying on top of my covers, and my face was buried in my pillow. That was odd for me. So I think if they're benevolent or malevolent, let's talk about the benevolent ones because that's who I have been able to deal with, thank goodness. I do believe that they take us because we're not ready for the experience. I think that they take us and knock us out, not because they want to. When we don't understand or know something, our instant reaction is to freak out. They probably learned that the hard way when taking us, so they now knock us out. Or I also believe they have the ability to take us spiritually. Somehow get the soul out of our body and take us that way. It's interesting either way because I really don't know. I would like to. I would like more clarity on it. In fact, I'll be honest with you. I have literally been asking recently for more contact again. But since I started this radio show in November of 2014, I haven't had much contact at all, and I've barely seen any UFOs. I don't know why. My wife has had a lot of contact. I haven't. It's almost like they are pushing me to do this show. And when I say they, I have no clue who they are. I just call them they. It just Rolls off the tongue nicely. So I believe that they choose their spots. I believe that they give us information, and somehow they, whoever they are, direct us in the direction that they want us to go with that message. My message, because I haven't been given the answers that I've needed, is with Space Out Radio. I love Bruce Becker's comment in Paranormal Into the Night. They don't take me because I would bug them until they let me drive. I am full for that. I am totally for that. And Bruce, if you ever get the opportunity to drive, I'm pretty sure they know where I live. So come pick me up. I'll go with you. I have no problem with that. Bill Cardwell has a message in Paranormal Into the Night. Can you tell us a bit about what kind of merchandise you will be carrying and how we will be able to order it? When do you expect to have it available? Good question, Bill. We are in the process, now that we have changed logos. James Tyson from Space Out Weekend, him and I were talking about this earlier. We're going to be getting some T-shirts made up. We're going to be getting some hats, probably keychains, bumper stickers. And we're going to make them all available on spaceoutradio.com. I would say they will be available hopefully by May or June. Right now we're taking one thing at a time. We finally got the Skype issue sorted out. We're going to be doing some test shows starting this week on Spreaker as we prepare to move the show over there. And we are going to be running some test shows to get this going. Once we're comfortable on Spreaker and we have the website up to where we want it to be, because there's a few more things we have to add on to that yet, including the Space Traveler membership, which will be $5 a month. And by the way, if you tuned in last month to Isaac Weishaupt, when we were talking about the Illuminati in music, he just sent me a bunch of autographed copies of books for you space travelers. Let me talk about the membership here for a moment, if you don't mind. A lot of the big name shows have memberships where they charge $5 to $10 a month, and it's paid for on PayPal. You need a PayPal account. And they give you access to archives. Our archives are going to be free. They will always be free, as far as I'm concerned. And I was amazed when I talked to people who were part of these different shows that for the $5 to $10 a month, that's all you get. I was blown away by that. I'm someone who doesn't have a lot of time. I'm not saying time here on Earth. I'm saying time in a day. I need at least a 36-hour day, not 24 hours, because I only average about 5 to 6 hours sleep a night, if that. So when I decided that I was going to do the membership for Spaced Out Radio, which when it is set up, I hope all of you decide to join up for $5 a month, I wanted to do something different. So this is what we're going to be doing. The archives will remain free. But here's what I'm going to provide. I'm going to provide a monthly interview with one of our guests for an hour just for you, the listener, or the member of Space Travelers membership. And it's going to be interactive where you get to talk to the guest as well, or you may not be able to talk to the guest during the show. We are going to be offering a Space Traveler of the Week. where one of you will be able to have your picture, if you wish, or your name up on the front page of our Space Out Radio website, as we want to thank you and recognize you because you are giving your valuable time to listen to Space Out Radio. We're also going to give a monthly newsletter out. But the thing that I am most excited about is once a month we are going to do a draw, maybe two, specifically to our Spaced Out Radio space travelers, where I am going to send you swag. I am hitting up absolutely everyone who comes on this show. Is there anything you can donate to our listeners? Because we have very loyal, dedicated, and intelligent listeners. And they agree because they are the ones answering your questions when you ask them. And so far, I have not got a single no. I just got a package in the mail today with 6 autographed books from Isaac Weishaupt, autographed to you space travelers. So I'm going to put a package together, and once a month, I am going to make a draw for you. And one lucky person a month is going to win a Space Out Radio package because you're a space traveler. I'm excited about the T-shirts. I am a big fanatic of wearing baseball caps. So we're just trying to find the right baseball caps or hats to put our logo on. The new SOR logo that we launched yesterday as well. So we will have some swag available soon, probably within the next couple of months. And I'm excited about it because I want to give back to you guys. If you're giving to me, never mind the $5 a month if you sign up for the Space Travelers, but you give me your time. You give James Tyson on Space Out Weekends his time or your time. That's important to me. My day right now starts at 7 o'clock in the morning. It's now 11:53 Pacific here. So in 7 hours, I will be up for my other career. I'll work that until 5:30, come home, spend a couple of hours, sporadic hours with the family before I head into my studio and start preparing for that night's show. And I'll usually get out of here and get to bed around 1:30 a.m., all to do it the next day. But I don't care. I love doing it. So I know how important time is. That's why I mention that. I know how important time is. And the fact that you would spend a couple of hours a night with me, almost on a nightly basis, some of you, I am very thankful for that. And I want to make sure that I give back to you guys because I only think that's fair. And I hope you see that as being fair as well. Joe from Paranormal Into the Night is asking, Dave, you've been taken and you say you may want more contact. How would you feel if you found out your children were being taken against their will? That would terrify and anger me. I know my son has been taken. I do not know if my daughters have been taken. My son was taken twice by the time he was 18 months. And I know this because my wife was with him. And the second time, she was able to ask them, why are you looking at him? Because he was naked on a table, like a baby gurney, and they were treating him, and she said they were treating him with much compassion. But they were doing like all these measurements and tests and stretching out his legs and everything. And she said she was like frozen there watching this. And they said to her something along the lines of, we just want to make sure he is healthy and growing properly, and he looks fantastic. That's all she remembers. I keep forgetting to ask her more about that. I don't know how I would react if I knew my daughters were being taken. I don't think they are. They're pretty in tune. They're pretty awake when it comes to the experiences, even though they're going through all their teenage drama that girls go through at that age. I agree with you. If it was of a malevolent nature, I would be some pissed off too. I really would. We only got about a minute and a half here left on Spaced Out Radio. I want to say thank you to Gloria. I know she was having some connection problems tonight due to bad storms in her area. But she says, makes a comment in Paranormal Into the Night. She says, it means a lot that you care so much about your listeners, Dave. I want to say thank you, Gloria, for making that comment, because I do care. And I know there's a lot of hosts out there who really do care about their audience, because without you guys, we're really nothing. But I have no problem telling you guys what I think of you. And whether you're in the Space Out Radio chat room, whether you tune in once a week, once every couple of weeks, or you're here every night, I want you to know that even if this show explodes on a national or international level, I want to remain one of these people who is very approachable. I want to be level-headed enough where you can still comment to me and say, hey, thanks a lot for what you do. And I'm going to say thank you right back for taking your time to spend with me. Because in the end, that's what it's all about. Time is important. We don't have enough of it, and you have to respect it.
Do you have a topic or guest you'd like to hear on Spaced Out Radio? Email us, dave@spacedoutradio.com. Send us a quick message on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, or a message on our Facebook page, Spaced Out Radio. Once again, here's Dave Scott.
And once again, I want to thank everybody who called in, as well as people who were posting questions on Space Out Radio's chat room and Paranormal Into the Night. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. I apologize for our guest, Sharry Edwards, but I hope she gets better, because she's in a lot of pain today with her eye problem that she is having. Tomorrow night on the show, we're going to be talking chemtrails. Matt Landman will be our guest. I want to learn about this. I want to learn about if it's causing Morgellons. I want to learn about why they're spraying zinc, sulfur, silver, aluminum, whatever they are spraying. It's disgusting, and I think we need to find out more about it, which we will tomorrow night on the show. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. You can give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. Join our Spaced Out Radio group. You can follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, and our YouTube channel, you can subscribe to it, is Spaced Out Radio Show. And please take the time to check out our new look, spacedoutradio.com website. That'll be growing in the next few weeks as well. I will be back in the hot seat in exactly 22 hours. I hope you have the opportunity to join us as well, because I absolutely love spending my evenings with you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for participating in tonight's show. It's always great to have you with us. Take care, good night, and we will talk to you tomorrow.